Hey everyone, welcome to our third Leo webinar. Today we're really excited to have Dan Butler here, who we'll introduce here in a little bit. He's going to be talking to us about scaling Google Ads in 2026 using AI. Really quick, for those of you who are joining on LinkedIn, we will be having a Q&A with Dan towards the end of the session here. So if you'd like to participate in that, please click this Luma event or scan this Luma event link, and it'll take you directly to the page where you can join on Zoom. So if you have questions and you're interested in kind of submitting those in the chat, you won't be able to do that from the LinkedIn Live, but go ahead and join on Zoom with this link. Okay, so today we'll go into an intro on Leo and some of the communities that we have here, as well as a brief product overview. After that, we will be pleased to hear from Dan about scaling Google Ads, and we'll have our Q&A. One thing to note, if you have questions during this, feel free to put them in the chat because we will take questions directly from there. Um, and then at the end here, we will have something called Leo office hours, which we're excited to explain to you guys here in a bit. So first, the whole Leo team is here and excited to be here with you guys. We have Connor, Josh, Brandon, Avery, Spencer, and myself, Taylor. It's really great to be with you today, and we're really excited to have you here. So, a few things before we move on. We're really excited about some future webinars. So, if you're interested in marketing thought leadership like this, we're going to be doing weekly webinars. So, here are a few that we have coming up. So, next week, we're going to be having a webinar with Noah Cisneros, and he'll be talking to us about how we can kind of match our ads with our brand and make sure that there's a really strong user journey. And then the following week, we'll be hearing from Tom Brzezinski, and he's going to be telling us about how to really use AI marketing agents to scale your ads and drive sales. And then at the end of the month, we'll be hearing from John Coyle. And John was at Triple Whale for a long time, and he'll be talking to us about measuring performance and kind of how to apply attribution to scale your ads performance. So, last few things here. We are having a marketing community here where marketers of all levels and brand owners as well are coming to our Leo Collective, we call it, which is a Slack group. And we have several channels in there where you can talk about any marketing questions that you have. You can talk about using Leo, our product. If you're not familiar with that, we'll talk about that in just a minute here. And it's just a really great way to connect with other marketers who are working on scaling their ads. And then we also would love it if you would follow us on LinkedIn because you'll see the most recent updates that we have for events like this, as well as new product updates that are coming out. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get started with a brief product overview of Leo. So I will kick that over to Josh and Connor.
Amazing. Sounds great. Well, hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I'm just going to guide you on how to create your own Leo account. Don't worry, we're going to be hearing from Dan here really shortly. Just want to make sure you guys are up to speed, know how to create your account before we get, so you can play around too as you're listening to Dan. But just going to be sharing my screen here really quick. And essentially what you do is you come onto our lovely website. And so you go to leoads.ai and then you click sign up. And then from there, the easiest thing to do is just to sign up with your Google account. But I'll just go through with this for you. In case if you don't have a Google account, you can just put in your email. So I can put that in there. Click continue. Amazing. I'll just create a quick password here. And feel free to follow along if you guys want to create an account. It's completely for free. So this whole webinar is for free. But yeah, so you'll go ahead and do that. And I'm going to put in my fancy code here. One second. Oops. Amazing. And if anybody has any questions at any time on how to do this or it's not working for you, just put in the chat. We're happy to hear from you. So, amazing. And so I'm just going to be putting in my URL for the company, and feel free to do this for whichever brand you're in, or if you're your own business, just so you get set up and you can experiment for your own business as Dan's talking through the amazing insights. Cool. Amazing. So when we get to this page, it's just gonna ask, Leo's gonna ask you for your role, and this just helps to make it a bit more personalized. So if you're like a business owner, Leo isn't giving you like tons of marketing jargon. It kind of understands where you are. But if you're a marketing professional, it can give you just it knows how to speak to you. So I'll just say marketing professional, and then amazing.
When we
We
get
are off to the races. Whoop. All right. Cool. So, if you're on this page, you've made it this far. Amazing. So, Leo's just warming up and giving you a little bit of an intro. You know, we always love to have a little intro when you're meeting someone new. And so it's just going to be warming up your account and getting everything set up, getting all the engines firing. And please feel free to ask any questions. I'm just going to be showing you a quick overview of the product, but I promise we're going to get to Dan's session here momentarily. And amazing. So once you get to this page, Leo's all about understanding your business really well and accomplishing your objectives. So it plugs into the ad accounts and understands your data really well, but it's all about getting you value for whatever matters to you. So for us, we're leoads.ai. It could be for like relaunch and automate campaigns faster. We could do this. So you just choose whichever objective really matters to you. And or you can also write your own if maybe these are just suggestions that Leo has, but the whole point of this is that everything that Leo is going to do on your behalf autonomously will be to get you further your objectives. So we can just do that. And amazing. So it has this as the objective, and Leo's going to be walking you through some things. So in the meantime, I'll just let you know how you get things set up if you're interested. So you can connect your ad accounts, and we've been working really hard on integrations in the team. So if you want to see all of them, you can click on the profile in the bottom left, and then you'll go to the settings, and then you can see connections here. So we have a lot of ad connections for wherever you're trying to get customers on. So the classic one is Meta. We've been doing that for a while, so you can click connect, and log in, and we'll automatically connect to your Meta account. You can start workshopping with Leo. But we also have Google Ads, Microsoft advertising like Bing, LinkedIn, Reddit, TikTok. And then we have integrations with Google Analytics, so to see the full funnel on your website. Also, Google Search, you're trying to do any SEO, we can help with that. And then HubSpot and Go High Level, we integrate with those for your CRM. And then Shopify, fair warning, we still are trying to get approval for our app. So if you click connect and nothing really happens, that's why. It should be ready sometime this week. But this week we'll be able to integrate with Shopify too, so we can see store data. But connect whichever ones of those are most relevant for you. So I can connect in since we're in the workshop, we can do our Google Ads. And once you do that, it'll just show you the screen just so we can YouTube is for creating Performance Max campaigns. You got to upload it to YouTube before you can work with videos. And then once you click on that, you're good to go. Then you'll select whichever account you want. So for us, we'll select our own, and boom, we are done. So that's how you connect your Google Ads. So if you want to follow along when Dan and Taylor are discussing, more than encouraged to do that. So that is a little bit of how that works. You can refresh your screen and it should be working. Also, feel free to join the Leo Collective community. It's completely for free. Tons of really cool marketers in there. You can always ask questions and meet some amazing people. And that's pretty much it for how to get started. And then it'll start loading all of your campaign data so you can see all of this. And then Leo can understand all of your what's going on in your Google Ads. So it understands the structure, what you've tried in the past, performance data, what type of campaigns you've run. So it can do like a whole audit for you, which is really cool. And then it can, from there, give you suggestions on how to improve your campaigns, generate creatives for you, and also execute the campaigns on Google Ads, just like you would do in Google Ads Manager, except it saves you tons of time. So that's a really neat feature. You should definitely explore it. More than happy to walk you through it if something's not working. Other things that are happening in the background, it's loading your logo. So you have all of your branding assets automatically loaded in for you. We fetch it from your website automatically. So from there, you can generate creatives all through the same place. You can see your objective and just talk to Leo and make stuff happen. So that is it from my end. Anything else to add? Any questions so far in the chat? But yeah, I highly recommend. As I've said, you didn't hit a paywall; it's completely for free. So we'd love to hear your thoughts as we're chatting with Dan. I guess I can end that here, Taylor. I don't think I have anything else to add. So if you want to get going with the rest of the session.
Great. Thanks so much for showing that, Josh. And then, so one thing to note is at the end of this session, we will be having an office hours. So we'll have an opportunity for you guys to play around with the product and ask any questions that you have. At the end of the session, too, we will be offering an extended trial for one additional month free. So please stick around for that. We'd love for you guys to get free access to the product and learn more about how to use it. So, with that, let's go ahead and intro Dan. We're really excited that Dan is here with us today. So, Dan Butler is a growth focused marketing leader with over 15 years of experience across both agency and in house teams. He previously served as head of marketing at TubeBuddy, where he helped creators and brands turn data into scalable growth strategies. Today, Dan leads demand generation at Job Nimbus, where he's responsible for driving pipeline and revenue through performance marketing and full funnel strategy. He's also the founder of Hype Marketing, a digital marketing agency he launched in 2020 that has helped hundreds of clients optimize and scale their marketing efforts. Currently managing over 5 million annually in Google ad spend, Dan specializes in turning paid acquisition into predictable, repeatable growth engine and helping teams move from guesswork to data-driven decision marketing. So Dan, thanks so much for being here. We're excited to hear from you.
Thanks, Taylor. I love those, formal intros. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to work with the Leo team and do this webinar. Josh, thanks for the demo. I learned some things new about the connections you guys have been working on, so that's always exciting. But today's topic, and I'll share my screen here, is all about how to scale using AI in your Google Ads. And to give a little bit of background about myself, I started running ads in Google 15 years ago. I worked in the agency side, learned a ton, and then I kind of moved my career beyond that and managed teams that manage their Google Ads. And recently, I've stepped back into a role where I'm really managing hands-on the Google Ads in my main role. And so I looked at it and said, okay, how can I take what I've already got and really bring it to the table with my experience with Google and how I can match that with my experience with AI. So we know that Google is really pushing automations. You've seen it if you've worked in Google, you know that obviously smart bidding, broad match have been around for a while. Performance Max, we know, and AI Max more recently. And what these automations do is they're really cool because they help you scale with Google, but you also lose control. And as a marketer, I'm always like, oh my gosh, if I don't know where my money's being spent, how do I know it's being spent correctly? And like a lot of marketers, I've gotten burned that way. Recently, if you looked at my LinkedIn, I posted this back at around the end of the year where I ran a Performance Max campaign and I used their new feature of the URL expansion. and the destination URL expansion. And that was by recommendation from my Google rep. What I found was without limits, it quickly went off the rails and started ramping up my spend, ramping up my clicks, moving my optimization, and just really made a headache for me. I had to dig in, find the issues, turn it off, and put things on there. Um, Now, as a marketer, I'm like, well, I'm never going to turn that on again. But the thing is, you can't really do that with Google, or you miss out on opportunities. So, where do you find that happy medium? Um, so, there's two ways you can do it. You can trust AI blindly and let it run, and you kind of can sometimes get the results that I did earlier. Or you can do everything manually, where you're trying to manage your entire Google account. And if you're doing a very small account, this might be manageable. You're looking at through your search term reports. You're looking through your different keywords. You're uploading negative keyword lists. You're doing all the things that we do to maintain um, the account effectively. And we know that AI has been able to help that, right? When I first started messing with AI with Google, I would go and download a CSV of all my search terms. And if it's been running for a while, I can plug that into a custom GPT that has data on my company, has my ICP, has my recent metrics, has all the information around my company to be able to make intelligent decisions and distinguish where waste is going. I did that coming in just a few months ago into an account that had been running for probably 12, 13 years by seasoned account executives and by people who knew Google Ads. Immediately, I found 10 to 15% waste that I was able to save just by doing that. And I thought, if AI can do that in a matter of minutes and apply this to a very seasoned account, why can't we do that more methodically or more systematically? So it's constantly doing that to be able to manage my accounts. And if I'm doing this all manually, that's my whole job. That's all I'm able to do because my time constraints, when you're working at scale, you can't move beyond that. So I was stuck. I can either sit here and monitor all these automations that are happening in Google and try to keep my ad spend clean, or I can just give them the reins. And obviously, neither approach is really working. So what did I do? Um, if I was able to have AI make a lot of the analysis and then still use my input to be my experience to be able to make those decisions, then I can maximize my time. I can spend more time building and less time maintaining. And that was key on how I was able to scale to Google Ads and save a ton of money and be able to get ahead of my competitors. So let me jump right over to kind of the meat of that and what that looks like. I wanted to automate search term reviews. I wanted to automate CPL, cost per lead anomaly monitoring, waste spending. I want to be able to flag that and also get into optimization suggestions, not just looking at where the money's going, but where can we put the money. So I worked with Claude and be able to build a system that looks at, first off, integrates with my Google Ads API. Second of all, talks to my CRM. In this case, we're using HubSpot. Third, has information in my, either with a custom GPT or an agent or whatever that has all that business context. Okay, be able to pipe those in to Claude using some basic Python that Claude was able to write for me. I didn't have to be a coder or a developer to be able to do that. I was able to use the AI to be able to write the code to be able to do that, and then have that generate Slack notifications as to when these things are going on. So it will automatically let me know as things are happening how I can then optimize my campaigns, when it sees things that need to be flagged, when I can jump in and take over the reins when I see Google going off the rails. I set up cadences on when I wanted this to happen. You can see here I set up different times when I want this to run and be able to get those automations, get those notifications, and manage my Google account effectively. So what this did is it turned me into just kind of being a slave to what Google wanted me to do, to be able to maintain automatically and then spend my time building, spend my time being more strategic and not maintaining. So what does that mean? It means that when I'm spending $5 million a month on a campaign, or I'm not, sorry, annually on a campaign, that's a lot of ad dollars that go to waste very quickly if Google goes off the rails. By setting up these monitoring, using AI, being able to manage waste, I'm always on top of my data. I don't spend my entire day doing that. I've got a team I've got to manage. I've got Google accounts I've got to move forward. I've got objectives I've got to meet. I've got to meet quota. This allows me to do that. It replaces manual audits, it replaces guesswork, it replaces slow reaction times. How many times have you gotten into an account and you're like, oh my gosh, this has been running for 3 months. I didn't realize that this is where my money was going. This takes care of that because it flags that. And this is a very simple system. So now we are, before we were being reactive, missing trends, only able to do it when I'm working. And now we're being proactive, instant insights, and it takes minutes a day. Here's the thing. You don't need my exact system. I don't need to like publish the code here in the webinar and let you guys do that. This is a simple system that I was able to set up. And I was able to, once I got the architecture down, be able to have AI build most of this. And they are able to adapt it to my specific scenario. And they can adapt the same thing to yours. It's very repeatable. It's very easy. It is limited, obviously, by my ideas and what I'm able to put together in terms of what I want to create, but it is functional and works very well. I would say is you can do that. If you can do this, then you can automate a lot of the analysis. You can improve. You can spend the time proving you're creative. You can spend the time being marketers and not just maintaining a system. So yeah, I think with that, the two biggest highest ROI moves, if you had one thing to take out of this webinar, is have AI review your search term analysis report, and then have it set up monitors for your CPLs or CPAs, depending on what you're doing, what kind of business. If you can do those two things, you can automate a lot of what Google's trying to do when it gets out of when it goes off the rails. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I got introduced into Leo because I think it's a great introduction to what the demo we saw earlier. I built this system in Cloud and I shared it with a lot of my marketing friends because I felt, hey, this is something that can really help get you out of that rut of just maintaining your Google accounts. And I had a friend that actually Tom Brashinsky, who's going to be speaking at a webinar later this month for Leo. I think it's the fourth one, right, Taylor? And
Yeah.
and so what Tom was able to do, he's like, hey man, I see what you're doing. That's really smart. However, I think Leo is already doing that. And so that's kind of how I got introduced into the product. And when I found that, I really stopped building my own system on Google because I was able to find I can go faster with integrating with a software team like the team here on the call and be able to do this at scale much better. So that's kind of how I got into it. That's how I started using AI to really leverage the system and then able to graduate over to the Leo system. Um, it looks like we have some comments in the chat. Should we go through that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, so we have a question here from Kristen. Is there a benefit to building your own system first so you can learn the system's thinking, pain points, and how to construct?
Yeah, so building your own system is nice because you're able to customize it. And you can, like say you built your own custom GPT or you built your own project within Claude or something like that, and then you're able to upload all your different documents. And that's really good because I'm able to kind of really be finite in what information I feed it. However, you can do the same thing in Leo. I mean, Leo experts here can tell me that, but that's my experience so far using the product.
Great. I have a question for you, Dan, too. So I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about what you've seen in terms of different types of budgets that you're running on Google Ads and how AI has helped those? Because a lot of our audience are brand owners who might not have a very large budget for Google Ads, but still want to get rolling with spend. What advice do you have for those guys?
Yeah, so depending on what your situation is, like if there's already a lot of demand for your product, then what you're really going to use AI to do is focus in on waste. Because the native AI tools within Google and the automations that we talked about earlier are going to try to expand your targeting and put you in different auctions that, quite frankly, probably don't pertain to your brand or are going to be leading to revenue. And so what happens is you spend a lot of money training the system to be able to get the targeting that you want. And that's what marketing is. I've told my customers a lot in the past, like the first few months of marketing, you're really just buying data because it's so hard to be able to get the algorithm to really hone in on what you need it to. What AI does is you can take those search return reports after a few hours, few days, a few weeks, and doing that at different intervals. And this is specifically speaking to search, but you can apply it to different parts of the Google platform. And you're able to feed it in and say, hey, AI, this is what I do. this is my product, this is who my buyer is, and find me the waste. And it's able to put together a negative keyword list fairly quickly and identify any search terms that you're matching with that you shouldn't be spending money on. Doing that will allow you to reduce waste and allow you to hone in on that targeting much faster. So you're much more competitive.
Awesome. We have a question from, oh, I thought there was a question from Josh in here.
Looks like Josh is
Wait.
saying, what campaign structures or trends are you seeing in Google Ads that are killing it right now? Any tips and tricks that you're seeing with your current clients? Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple things that we need to look at. Um, AI Max, I mentioned earlier, is one of those automations that Google's really pushing on you. It's one of the key ways to be able to get into that AI summary that is at the top of search result pages that you're seeing. But you have to do it with limitations. I see a lot of marketers just turn that off because of the experiences like mine that they've had. But in doing that, you exclude yourself in a lot of ways from showing up in that number one or number or zero placement. And so making sure you turn on AI Max, but then putting those limitations. I don't use final URL expansion personally, but if you do, you would want to really limit the different URLs that it may have to choose from. You can do text customizations if you're comfortable with it, but in general, if you turn both those options off and just turn on AI Max, you have the opportunity to be able to get in that placement zero into that AI summary, and we've seen really good results there.
Great. So Dan, when you're running campaigns with, oh, and we actually have another question from Kristen, so I'll come back to that thought. But can you tell us more about your experience with AI Max in demand gen? And she's saying that she's used PM Max heavily and search, and what to build on demand gen, but understand there's a ton of testing needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of depends on what signals you're giving with your different Performance Max campaigns. Um, like that's what one of the things you recommend, or you had said, Kristen, that you're using heavily. And I'm hoping you had good experiences there. That's one of those ones that you really have to be close with guardrails on. A lot of times, what I end up seeing is PMAX campaigns just turn into glorified display ad campaigns because most of the budget gets applied there if it doesn't have good boundaries. AI Max, I've seen again, if you're trying to get into that AI summary at the top of the search result page, AI Max is one of the ways you can do that. And so it has been really effective that way. Yeah, PMAX campaigns can totally crush it. But go look into your PMAX campaigns and see where that money's being spent. If you see the little flow chart that shows all your different areas of where you're spending within PMAX, and like I recently dug into one that was killing it, 93% of that is going to display ads. You could run a display ad campaign and probably get the same results for a lot less money. So those are the kind of things that you need to look at with Google. It's really hard to see that from the if you just look at it from a high level, but you start lifting the hood and digging in deep, and you'll find that Google will lump together a lot of things, and you can actually find the source of that performance if you dig in a little bit deeper. Yeah, keep budgets low. It focuses on search. It can, especially if it has good signal. When it doesn't have good signal, then that's when it kind of goes off the rails, especially if you're trying to scale really effectively. Like I've been trying to get a campaign where I was scaling just a few dollars, and then I started to really ramp up the pressure on meeting quota, and so we expanded really quickly, and that's when we saw just a lot of trash going in there. So you have to scale in increments, usually not adding more than like 15% budget at a time will allow you to kind of keep that signal tight and allow you to scale effectively.
Great. Okay, we have a question from Mason. So bouncing off of Taylor's question, is there a minimal monthly spend recommended for new brands without product market fit to budget early on? In other words, what is a low but reasonable budget?
Yeah, it depends on what your brand is and how much your cost per click typically is. If you're running a really low cost per click and you're able to take advantage of long tail, that's probably pretty cheap, or you're able to, um, you know, basically, if you're getting to the point where you're getting at least 30 conversions a month, you can optimize off of that. If you're not getting that out of your current budget, you need to increase budget or change targeting. But what the main thing that comes back to budget is making sure you have enough signal to actually optimize off of. And if you're not hitting those minimum signal thresholds, then you're not spending enough, or like I said, or your targeting is off. That's more important than the actual dollar amount. And that's going to change on every industry and every type of campaign that you're bidding on.
So that that brings me to another question, Dan, because when I've worked with uh, different brands that are using Google Ads, and we talk about kind of investing in the data collection process, like you were talking about earlier. Can you speak to some signals that you see that tell you this is working? And even though we're not really seeing purchase conversions or subscriptions right now, we're seeing really good data, and this is a good sign.
Yeah. Um, like with any type of campaign, you want to have your macro and your micro conversions. So your macro may be a subscription, it may be a purchase, it could be a lead, whatever it is for your situation. But things that lead to that are micro conversions. And so things like a newsletter sign up, obviously clicks, uh, you can put in page destinations that are really important to your product. If they're visiting those, then you know they're interested. There's lots of different places you can put in for micro conversions that you can help give signal to the campaigns early on that will then lead to those more macro conversions. And so those are the things I've worked with when I've had smaller brands that don't have a lot of budget, or maybe that are on, that's some new product or service that really hasn't had existing demand. We can start honing in on these micro conversions, and then you can do conversion value weights. So like say I may have one like a 10-to-1 ratio where a click on a certain page is worth 1, where a conversion is worth 10 or for a lead conversion or something like that. And so then you can do it by conversion value and have it have the system see those different conversion points, see their values, and then be able to work off of those.
Great. One strategy that some people might try, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, Dan, is they want to run ads on multiple platforms. Have you seen running very top of funnel paid social ads increase like branded search campaign performance?
But yeah, 100%. And that's hard though, right? Because the as you're trying to be able to give credit to all those different platforms, and every platform wants to get the credit for those, and so you have to be able to manage it effectively. But yeah, absolutely, you start running maybe social, it could be TikTok, I mean you can do things on Meta, you can do things on YouTube. And you 100% start seeing a lot of times the net result of that is your branded search queries increase. You see your cost per acquisition there, and the lower funnel goes down as you start making those movements in top of funnel. Where I see brands mess up is when they don't give enough credit to that top of funnel, and then they turn those off right away. Oh, I didn't see any conversions from this, and I ran all this awareness, and they're not looking at it from a full funnel point of view. I've done studies in the past where we've run that without a full funnel approach, and cost per conversion overall was more than when we ran, just really focusing on bottom funnel. When you run a full funnel approach and you average that cost across all the different parts of the funnel, then you see the overall, what we found was overall cost per conversion in general is lower.
So you said something interesting there, which is that's where a lot of brands that have lower budgets mess up. Tell us more about like where you've seen that brands kind of get things wrong that are really common mistakes, and what are easy fixes for those to help them succeed.
Yeah, so just building off of that, when so many times executives will come into a marketing campaign, they'll look at the data and they'll say, we ran a YouTube campaign, or we ran display, or we ran Meta, and we saw our CPL was 5x what it is on search. So we're only going to put money into search. And so they do that, and then or they force that because that's the executive approach, and it makes sense, right? If you're seeing 5x costs, why would you put money there? And the problem is because you're not fueling demand, and so you're not creating your own demand, I should say. And so then what ends up happening is you either exhaust what you're able to do with your search campaigns, or you end up paying way more for them. And so people aren't searching for your brand. They're just, they're just finding you by the few keywords that you are associated with and that you're billing on for search. That's a very generalized approach, Taylor. Every brand is different, and sometimes brands have so much demand already for their product. Product-led growth obviously plays a big part into that, where all they need to do is be able to take that demand that's already existing and convert it. But that's not the case for most brands. Most brands have to be able to create that demand by adding to mid funnel and top funnel.
Great. So with branded, seems like that is a great investment. What about competitive branded campaigns? At what point should a brand feel like, okay, I'm at a stage now where I should start going after my competitors' keywords?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love competitive campaigns because that's where you get to be a little bit more direct. You can speak to, you can show, different types of creative that compare your brand versus theirs, that kind of thing. What my experience has been is these campaigns typically convert well, but they are expensive. You're bidding on another person's brand that they're probably bidding on already, or if it's another competitor that is highly sought after, a lot of companies are bidding on that brand name. You're also bidding against a customer that already knows that brand. And so they already have it in their mind. They may be really familiar with it, and that's the way they're going to go to purchase anyways. And so you're having to convince them to change paths and go after your product or your service. And so, depending on how it's executed, it can go really well. But in general, yes, high converters usually I've seen what I've seen from those customers. They do tend to stick around once you convince them, but it costs a lot to convince them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great points. And then, okay, so we have another question from Josh too. So he says, if I'm starting from scratch and have never run Google Ads before, and say I'm a B2B SaaS company or CPG, where should I start and how do I get rolling with Google Ads?
Well, I think if you would ask me this question 3 months ago, Josh, I'd probably say give you a whole different answer. Honestly, with what the Leo team has created, it's a great way to be able to intro it and easily lean into starting your first campaigns. It can help you with strategy. It can help you with how you format campaigns, where you should put your money first, those kind of things. You can talk directly with the product, and it's able to work through that. Obviously, with AI, you can build out a strategy with Chat, or you can build out with Claude or Gemini or any of the other ones, and then you can, go in and build that out. And that might be good just to kind of familiarize yourself with the platform. But things are changing so quickly. Like I said, to me, it's like I was building that whole system in Claude to be able to give you notifications and monitoring. And then I found Leo and I was like, why would I spend all the time building this myself when there's a more advanced system already built?
Yeah, great point. Okay, so um, one last question too for you, Dan, and then anyone we still have time for questions, so feel free to throw a few more in here. But you mentioned, and we kind of had a discussion about this too, that performance max campaigns can crush it, and then there are also times where they kind of see a little bit of scrutiny, like they're not. Sometimes they're not very good. So can you walk us through like when you're doing a performance max campaign specifically, what should you watch out for to make sure that it can continue to perform well?
Yeah, I think you start building your performance max campaigns, give it all the necessary assets it needs, look at the different signals from the platform and what it's returning back. What's its cost per conversion? Is it converting? Does it have enough signal to actually optimize to? I touched on that earlier. That's a big thing that people miss is they're like, oh yeah, I got 3 conversions out of my PMAX campaign this month. Well, that was luck because you didn't give it anything to optimize off of. And usually what will happen there is Google will stop spending, and then your campaign just sits there. It doesn't even do anything because it's like, I don't know what to, Google's like, I don't know what to do with this. So those are some things that I've seen that really fall apart. Then there's other times where it's working really, really well and it's crushing it, like we saw from Kristen earlier. But you may find that as you lift the hood on it, like I said, your mix, because Performance Max uses all the different parts of Google's network, a lot of times you may find that it really optimizes towards one type of delivery. Frequently, I see that with display. And then so it's like if you're going to do that, you might as well either run just a display campaign or run a demand gen campaign. Because what you end up happening is you're spending more cost per mil for this in a PMAX format than you would just with a straight display or a demand gen campaign. So those are things where it's like I could maximize my budget here, spend less per impression, and maybe see equal results because PMAX is really optimized towards that format, and that's all it's running anyway.
What's what's one campaign setting or something that Dan just never touches that you haven't really seen any success with?
I think the search partners networks, Google always recommends that, and it usually ends up bringing low quality traffic. So the network partners sitting, I usually almost always turn off.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Great. Well, if there are no other questions, that was really awesome. Thanks so much, Dan, for all of your insights. And I definitely learned a lot of things that I'm going to apply to some campaigns today, probably. So we really appreciate it. Next, we're going to go into the office hours, we're calling it for Leo, and we're going to kind of show you guys how to do different things like building campaigns and some of these things that Dan was going over in his presentation. So I will kick it off to Connor and Josh again.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan. That was awesome. I feel enlightened and emboldened to go and update all my Google Ads and apply some of the things you taught us. So thank you so much. Um, okay. So what I was thinking, right, as I was listening to Dan is I want to go and audit my own account right now and apply some of these ideas that he's shared with us. So if you haven't created a Leo account now, I think we sent a link already. It would be really instructive, I think, to have one so you could do it with us as I'm walking through and hopefully helpful, right? It's a free account, but what I'd really like to do is just show you what um, my process would be for taking what Dan's taught us and using that to audit my account and improve a campaign or multiple campaigns within my Google account. So let me share my screen and show you how I would do that. I'm going to go to this one. This is actually the same account that Josh created for us. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you, Taylor. Okay, so as you can see, I have this objective, which is to audit and clean up my Google Ads campaigns. Um, and on the left, I've already connected my Google Ads account. So if you don't remember how to do that, or if you're just creating your account right now, you would go into settings, connections, and then you'd connect your Google Ads account here, and then select your specific account. Okay. So hopefully you've gone through this onboarding checklist or you can do it later, but I'm going to have my first conversation with Leo, which is a big moment for me and Leo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the notes I took from this meeting. So this is my giant prompt. And what that's going to result in is a report. So Leo is going to put together a full report for me, look through my Google Ads campaigns, and then figure out where we might be having issues, how we can set up some of these flags and gates and bidding optimizations and things like that that Dan's shared with us. So this is a pretty common workflow with Leo where you take a strategy, right? You have some kind of strategy you want to implement. You go back and forth with Leo. You result in some kind of report or solidified referenceable material that you can come back to and apply to campaigns. And then you use this to work through your ad accounts and improve them. So if you guys have a Leo account, I would highly recommend trying this, taking everything we've learned from Dan, getting it into your account, building up that context, and having it help you implement these new strategies and ways to improve your account. So this is a really hands-on way to use AI in the way that Dan has described to improve our Google Ads campaigns. All right, so as this is rolling here, it looks like it's going to have about 7 different steps to go through as it's building this campaign or building this report, and you'll see that come through. Taylor, did you want to have us go into breakout rooms or allow people to unmute themselves or anything if they have questions, um, especially if they're following along?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. If you have any questions in the meantime, please throw them in the chat, but we can kind of send this to a breakout room and then people will be free to unmute so you can ask any questions. Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining, and special thanks to Dan for sharing your presentation with us. And we'll see you next week, hopefully, for our webinar with Noah.